welcome to the Solar Cookers International Press Conference here at COP30. My name is Caitlin Hughes. I'm the Executive Director of Solar Cookers International. And we have an exciting press conference today with wonderful guest speakers, including Michael Melin from Sustainable Energy for All. We have Solar Cookers International's very own Program and Science Director, Alan Bigelow. And from the Central African Republic, we have Senor Polycarp Mandayan. We'll get to hear more details about how Solar Cookers International works, as well as some specifics from the Central African Republic and how it relates to the larger landscape from Sustainable Energy for All. So first of all, what is a solar cooker? There are hundreds of different types of solar cookers, but they all use the same basic principle of gathering sunlight and using it to cook. Some examples are the reflective panel cooker. A specific type is known as the Cookit, which Solar Cookers International helped design by request of the UNHCR. And these solar cookers can be made easily and affordably anywhere around the world. We have open source plans for some of these cookers available on our website as well, because we want everybody to be solar cooking. Box cookers are another type of solar cooker. I have one and I use one frequently. And they work very similar. They're also called a solar oven. Parabolic reflectors are another type of solar cooker, and these get to very high temperatures. There are many other types of solar cookers, for example, institutional solar cooking, Fresnel lens cookers, and we also encourage complementary technologies such as retained heat baskets and water pasteurization indicators. Because solar cookers can be used to heat water to make it safe to drink, as well as to dry food, increasing food sustainability. Other advantages of solar cooking are no smoke, no air pollution, reducing deforestation, increasing nutrition, increasing time for women to be able to do other activities instead of having to gather fuel, and reducing risk for women as well. For example, one solar cooker can help a family save 1 ton of wood from burning. Solar cooking is an important solution for all of us, and especially the 2.1 billion people who are cooking over open fires and using polluting fuels. We at Solar Cookers International want to give a choice for a better environment and healthier people. So who is Solar Cookers International? We are a nonprofit that is working to promote climate-friendly solar cooking to improve human health, economic well-being, women's empowerment, and the environment for vulnerable populations worldwide. We've been working since 1987, and we are so thankful to have hundreds of collaborators in over 135 countries worldwide. So how do we work to address this global problem? We work through 3 main ways: advocacy, research, and building capacity. And us being here at COP30 is a shining example of our advocacy work. And we'll get to hear from one of our collaborators to showcase some other examples as well. So next, I'd like to introduce our amazing guest speaker, Michael Melin from Sustainable Energy for All. So can you please tell us how Sustainable Energy for All is involved in improving access to clean cooking?
Thank you very much, Caitlin, and thank you for having me here and take part in the press conference. So my name is Mikael, and I work for an organization called Sustainable Energy for All. And we're an international organization working at the intersection of energy, climate, and development. And one of the early success stories of us as an organization some 12, 13 years ago was the establishment of Sustainable Development Goal 7. And one of the key pillars, obviously, of SDG 7 is access to energy. But often people only speak about that access to electricity, which is still the 700 million people today that lack it. But more striking, as one of your slides showed, is that there's still 2.1 billion people globally that don't have access to clean solutions to cook their meals. So they don't have access to clean cooking. And that's a problem, certainly for people. It comes at great cost for health. The World Health Organization estimates that more than 3 million people die due to indoor air pollution, which is largely caused by not having access to clean cooking. And that affects women and children most. Then I mentioned we also work with climate. So when you're looking at the clean cooking agenda or the cooking agenda globally, of course it's a climate emergency as well. It's estimated that 2 to 3% of CO2 emissions come from non-clean cooking, traditional ways of cooking, and that's at par with the aviation industry. If you then look at the opportunity it presents, obviously it will cost much less to provide the 2.1 billion people with access to clean cooking than it is to clean up the jet fuels globally. And then thirdly, what I wanted to highlight is that like sustainable energy interconnects with roughly 2/3 of the other SDGs. And so it's really a development issue as well. Not having access to clean cooking comes at a great cost, as mentioned, on health, for the planet, but it's a great loss of productivity, especially for women and children, again, who often have to spend hours collecting fuel for cooking their daily meals. So solutions that help tackle this, jump on this opportunity for action are certainly very, very welcome. And it's great to learn more soon, I guess, about your experience in the Central African Republic.
Thank you so much for highlighting how it connects with the Sustainable Development Goals, because solar cooking does positively impact all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you so much for recognizing that. All right. Anything else you want to add on clean cooking? All right, we'll get to hear from our other exciting speakers. So I'm going to bring Solar Cookers International's Program and Science Director, Alan Bigelow, into the conversation. And because we are an international organization, this press conference will be in both English and French, so we'll get to hear both languages. So Alan, can you share a few highlights from SCI's recent solar cooking programs in the Central African Republic and Mali, please?
Thank you very much, Caitlin. It's a pleasure to be here. Solar Cookers International, over the last 18 months, had a fantastic opportunity to work in 2 new countries, Mali and Central African Republic. These 2 projects started at the same time, so in our view, they were one project, but in 2 countries. And this was through the Climate Technology Center and Network, CTCN, which is part of the United Nations system. And this was funded by the European Union and European Commission entities. So this initiative was both focusing on pilot projects. And we're happy to announce that these 2 initiatives have concluded. And the CTCN, just to mention what it is in French, it's written down on a slide here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be asking our guest, Polycarp Mandien, from Central African Republic, some questions in French. And when he answers, I'll paraphrase his answers in English, just to try to broaden the language scope here. But coming back to the CTCN, le CTCN facilite la connexion entre les pays et les solutions technologiques climatiques, accélérant le développement et le transfert des technologies pour des initiatives à faible émission de carbone et résilientes au changement climatique à la demande des pays en développement. So back to English real quickly. These initiatives were country-led. Both Mali and Central African Republic, the countries themselves asked for this assistance. So now to focus on Central African Republic, this particular pilot had certain key details. And for one, it was a partnership with the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, and that is where Polycarp is working. And also the initiative took place in 4 communities, and these communities were just on the outskirts of Bangui, the capital of Central African Republic. This initiative also included mobilizing youth, and it also produced a roadmap for scaling solar cooking within Central African Republic. Interestingly, the CTCN required, we were very delighted about this, the inclusion of a gender expert. So very important in these delicate initiatives like bringing solar cooking, introducing solar cooking into new communities. At Central African Republic, 5.68 million people, or about 99% of the population, relies on polluting fuels for cooking their meals. So to bring solar cooking is really a transformation for so many people. The potential is massive. Okay, so to introduce Polycarp, my first question is, pourquoi la cuisson solaire est-elle une priorité pour le gouvernement de la République centrafricaine? À vous, Polycarp.
Merci beaucoup. La cuisson solaire est la priorité du gouvernement centrafricain. Et comme vous savez, il y a la déforestation et la dégradation qui gangrènent notre pays. Et voilà, nous voulons juste utiliser des manières alternatives ou des conditions alternatives pour répondre à certains besoins du changement climatique. Le gouvernement centrafricain a proposé la cuisson solaire à travers la préoccupation de la population centrafricaine parce que dans le document politique de la République centrafricaine, CDI, il voulait au juste engager dans ce document pour que la cuisson solaire fait partie des projets prioritaires de la République centrafricaine. Et c'est pour cela que nous sommes en collaboration avec SCI pour la mise en œuvre de ce projet.
Merci beaucoup. Et en regardant vers le futur, c'est ce qu'on doit faire maintenant, parce que avec les projets pilotes, on fait l'introduction, mais on ne peut pas s'arrêter à ce point. Il faut continuer. Mais pour continuer, comment on va le faire? C'est une bonne question. Donc, pour Polycarp, quelles sont les ambitions du gouvernement de la RCA, République centrafricaine, en matière de cuisson solaire, et en quoi la collaboration avec SCI a-t-elle été précieuse?
Oui, l'ambition de la République centrafricaine ou du gouvernement centrafricain, ces ambitions, c'est pour vraiment acquérir ce projet cuisson solaire aux bénéficiaires parce que le cuisson solaire c'est un système vraiment qui aide la population centrafricaine dans tout sens pour que nous puissions garantir la santé, nous garantir l'économie et nous garantir l'environnement aussi.
Merci. Et dans les projets, il y avait des résultats très intéressants et nous espérons que ces résultats vont augmenter quand ce projet est pris à l'échelle. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous partager un peu au sujet des résultats de ces projets à ce point?
Oui, par rapport aux résultats à ce projet, sur le plan économique, nous avons vu que les dépenses que les femmes utilisent pour payer les bois et énergie, ça réduit. Parce qu'auparavant, ils paient les bois à un terme vraiment qui est coûteux. Et voilà, quand le cuisson solaire est là, les dépenses sont un peu réduites et ils profitent de faire l'économie de ça. Et l'analyse a opté aussi sur la santé. Parce que vous voyez bien, les fumées, ça provoque aussi certaines maladies respiratoires. Ça provoque aussi, ça gangrène aussi certaines maladies de l'œil aussi. Donc vraiment, c'est ce qui a fait que cette analyse a été vraiment basée sur ce point. Et je veux ajouter aussi sur le plan environnemental, comme les femmes les analyses qu'on a essayé de juger, les femmes n'aillent pas loin pour aller chercher du fagot ou ne fait pas la pression dans la forêt. Donc c'est ce qui a aidé a fait que cette analyse a été abrogée et a été vraiment tenir compte de tout ce qu'on avait souhaité à faire.
Merci beaucoup, Polycarp. I'm going to switch to English just for a moment, and maybe to mention that we are experiencing an amazing rainstorm here in Belém right now. So I'm hoping that those of you who are following along are actually able to follow along. We understand that this will also be recorded, so please come back and visit if you're having trouble with the transmission. But in Polycarp's remarks, he was mentioning how solar cooking was a national priority. This is a very important aspect of working together, because if we try to enter a country and there is not an alignment, it would be very difficult to move forward. But with the alignment between the national policies and the effort of this initiative, things are in harmony and they just move forward. We have navigation, we can see where we're going, but the assistance and coordination at the government level was absolutely crucial for moving this forward. So I just wanted to touch base on that moment. Polycarp also talked about some of the results from this initiative and how there were economic benefits that were felt at the household level, but also health benefits that were felt at the household level. So on the economic side, people pay an extraordinary high amount of money in proportion to their income to purchase firewood and charcoal, whereas with solar cooking, once that's introduced into the household's options for cooking, it reduces significantly this expense. Also, it reduces the time that is spent for going to seek wood in their local communities, so in the forest, etc. So this is a transformative aspect of how solar cooking can benefit people's lives. On the health side, people did respond to the surveys that they are coughing less, they're visiting hospitals less. Basically, their health is improving. And this is data that is coming from the participants in this initiative. So that is extremely reinforcing for the work that we're doing together. So looking forward, we are aiming to have more assistance to scale these initiatives. We need a lot of support to drive this energy forward. And I think I'm going to pause for a moment and just give a moment for our executive director here, Caitlin Hughes, to just bring this all back together as that thunderclap. So please, Caitlin, if you can say a few words.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alan, and thank you so much, Polycarp. Polycarp, your voice from the Central African Republic is so important, so thank you so much for being here. Did you want to add anything about the next iteration of the NDC?
Okay. Merci. Caitlin demande si vous voulez ajouter des points en regardant vers le futur, peut-être les suggestions qui viennent de conclusion de ce projet pilote, et aussi au sujet du prochain CND de République centrafricaine.
Merci beaucoup, merci. Par rapport à la suggestion du pays, nous voulons avoir un renforcement des capacités des bénéficiaires pour que les bénéficiaires aillent vraiment dans le besoin pour l'utilisation de ce kit. Et nous voulons aussi, pour pour que les partenaires puissent appuyer la République centrafricaine à l'intégration de ces puissances solaires dans le programme éducatif au niveau scolaire ou au niveau de l'université pour que nous puissions avancer dans ce sens. Et nous voulons aussi l'intégration de la formation de communautés de base pour eux-mêmes, ils peuvent apprendre à utiliser ou à fabriquer ces puissances solaires. Et nous voulons aussi la vulgarisation. C'est l'ambition du gouvernement pour que ce projet aille sur l'étendue du territoire centrafricain. Donc, c'est vraiment la suggestion ou l'ambition du pays.
To mention a few points that Polycarp just shared, he suggests that there be more support for training at the local level. The women in the communities are truly the leaders in this aspect, and training women to train other women is really a key for success. The level of trust and confidence between women is so high that allows this project to succeed. So he's calling for more training at the local level that will also lead toward more manufacturing at the local level. So manufacturing of solar cookers within the communities. And he's also calling for the need for greater awareness. The pilot project certainly brought awareness to the 4 communities, but what we need to do next is to increment and scale, and that is a nationwide aspect. So to bring awareness to the entire country is what we'll be aiming to do going forward. Do you have another question?
Thank you so much for sharing more about that. The Central African Republic is really leading by example and encouraging other countries to include it in ambitious goals in their nationally determined contributions and other policies, which then makes it easier to bring in more support and make this really a global solution. So in terms of bringing in more support and working with other organizations, Michael, I'd like to bring you back into the conversation. How does Sustainable Energy for All support countries like the Central African Republic in achieving their clean cooking and clean energy priorities?
Thank you for that question, and maybe bringing us back to COP30 and Belém. I mean, something that we've had the pleasure of doing this year again is to work very closely with the COP presidency team and the climate champions team. And we all know that all the way up from President Lula, all the way down to the many corridors and the meeting rooms here in Belém, clean cooking is top priority. It's a top priority for a good number of reasons that have been mentioned. I mean, it is good for the people, it's good for the planet, and it's good for prosperity. So I think that I would like to give a round of applause as well to the presidency team for really helping elevate this agenda. Now, linking to that, and something that came up here already, is that obviously make clean cooking part of your NDCs. Increasingly, countries have done so, so that's good. And what we then encourage and what we work with countries is, from SC for All side, is to support also including clean cooking in the national energy plans of a country, be it around the energy access plans or be it around their energy transition plans. It is very important to include clean cooking considerations across all of those agendas, because we can prioritize, but then we need to plan for the actions, and you need a plan to be able to attract the support that's needed for this agenda. Finally, perhaps to highlight something that we discussed with Solar Cookers International is the opportunity to also raise awareness on this agenda, and what better platform than the schools for doing so. So again, with the presidency and the climate champions team and many partners, including the World Food Programme, the School Meals Coalition and many other partners, we launched something that is called the Platform for Clean Cooking in Schools. And this is one of the highlights from the COP30 on the clean cooking agenda. And this is really to focus on providing access to clean cooking in schools. School meals are super important for people. There's a great momentum on that agenda. More than 450 million children get fed in schools, and that number is fast rising. That's great news. So what we want to do and bring with partners is the way those school meals are prepared. and in a sustainable fashion. And so that's something that we were brainstorming in the other day around, like perhaps what could we do together on that agenda in the Central African Republic.
Mikhail, thank you so much for bringing together both policy and practice, because we know how important both of those things are. For example, Solar Cookers International does an NDC report, which is available on our website, solarcookers.org, where we actually analyze which countries have policies that are supportive of clean cooking and solar cooking, so other countries can follow that example. And as you said, that number has been going up, which has been amazing. Also, solar cooking, we promote best practices. And of course, schools are a perfect place because even air pollution can impact cognitive functioning, and we want to be setting a positive example for next generation, both in taking care of people and our planet. So, Alan, I'd like to turn it back to you to bring it back to the Central African Republic. Why has working with the Central African Republic Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development been a valuable opportunity for Solar Cookers International and solar cooking?
Thank you, Caitlin. If you don't mind, I'll answer in English, but then also in French, because I'd like Polycarp to hear. So first of all, in English, this experience has really been fantastic. And for Solar Cookers International, I would say that working with a government has just brought a level of credibility that we really haven't had before. We've worked in other countries, but this is